The pick is in.
Minnesota Vikings have made a selection in the 2024 NFL Draft. Alongside Locked On College Football host Spencer McLaughlin, I'm Tanisha Batiste. We are joined by Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings to break down the Vikings selecting Dallas Turner with the number 17 pick. So, Luke, the Vikings went up 6 spots, gave up a 5th rounder in 24, a 3rd rounder in 25, and a 4th rounder in 2025 as well. You think that was a good deal to get Dallas?
So by most of the trade charts, by most of the historical data we have, Kwesi overpaid. By how much he overpaid depends on a few opinions that you have, like how much you want to devalue future picks, where you think the Vikings will be picking next year, if it's early, if it's late. But kind of no matter how you slice it, it's some degree of an overpay. That said, Dallas Turner by consensus was supposed to be a top 10 pick. Some people thought he'd be the first defender off the board. So maybe they view that as worth it once, he's starting to fall down the board more than the Vikings thought, which is probably what precipitates this. You've got him really high and you're going, whoa, that dude's looking kind of lonely up there. Maybe it's worth it to swim upstream a little bit and overpay a little bit to get someone that's worth even more than what we'd pay for. That's probably the logic.
Right. And you're absolutely right. Many said they thought Turner was going to be the first off the board, certainly even one of the players who would go in the top 10 as a defensive player. Now we're looking at him just being the second off the board at edge. But what do you think the Vikings saw in Dallas Turner to say, hey, we think he'd be a good addition to our defense?
Well, so he's a great Flores-y guy. So Flores-y. There is a lot of versatility. So Flores wants everybody to be able to move around. So if you're the kind of guy, this is what I would say about like Jared Verse. He's a hand in the dirt, rush from the right side, every single play kind of edge rusher, put him against the same tackle, make him wear that tackle out. Like that's his game. That's not what you really want if you're a Brian Flores defense. You want everybody moving around. So you want somebody that's a little more athletic. Dallas Turner's a little smaller. That's probably why Latu went over him, but he wins with leverage. So he comes kind of prepackaged with a solution to that problem. Really good at leverage. Love the way he wins with leverage. Love the way he sets the edge, which I guess is a hot take, but he can set the edge. Bite me. And I really like Dallas Turner. I had him as the 3rd edge on the board because I'm just like insanely high on Chop Robinson, but that's my own hot take. So I love it, and I think it's a great fit with what they want to do on defense, specifically with the fronts.
And what do you think when you look at Turner's game is maybe his area where he needs the most work in order for him to be game ready for the Vikings come day one?
So he's ready day one. He'll play day one. But I think the flaw here, if you're looking for why this dude wasn't, top 5, top 10, is the size. And he will just get walled sometimes. Like against a good pass set, if you're a big guy with a good pass set, if you're going up against, say, the Titans got J.C. Latham, right? Big tackle, good pass set. If you're going up against that guy, which he went up against him a lot in practice, I bet, you're just... leverage can only take you so far, and sometimes you'll win the leverage battle. You'll drive your feet the way you're supposed to, and just not get anywhere because the guy anchored on you, and you'll just kind of take an L that way, just not being big enough. So that you're going to see some L's there, but they're limited for sure, and not something that is. If that's something that's a deal breaker for you, you probably just aren't drafting him.
For more on the Vikings, subscribe to Locked On Vikings on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So Spencer, having had an opportunity to see Dallas Turner in action at Alabama, what are some of your thoughts on the best that he brings to the table in order to produce immediately? What are your concerns about some of the areas where he's got to improve?
Well, I think I take some risk making this statement about an NFL draft prospect, but I think his floor is very high. And, the lack of size could maybe make him a lower ceiling player, but as you just heard, he's someone who steps in and starts right away. I think he's a very well-rounded pass rusher, and you look at the track record of guys coming out of this position from the University of Alabama, there's a pretty solid list up and down. Of course, you don't worry about the conference that he played in or whether or not he went against NFL tackles all the time. I mean, heck, he was going against an NFL tackle in practice all the time. J.C. Latham, who went 7th overall to the Tennessee Titans. So I think you're in a solid spot here. I'd agree it's probably a little bit of an overpay to give up that many draft picks to get him. I think Chop Robinson has got a higher ceiling, but I think that this is still, a guy who in some mock drafts was inside the top 10 to the Atlanta Falcons. They went in a different direction, but there's a reason that Dallas Turner was in that sort of range, and I think that he can be a really, really solid NFL player.
For continuing coverage of the 2024 NFL Draft, subscribe to Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.